Lisa Marie Presley grew up surrounded by worship, but never by safety. From the moment she could walk, her life belonged to a name far larger than herself, a name the world loved but rarely questioned. Behind the gates of Graceland and the illusion of privilege, Lisa learned early that silence was survival and that truth came at a cost. At 54, after decades marked by loss, addiction, and grief, she finally allowed pieces of that truth to surface quietly, carefully, and far too late. As the only child of Elvis Presley, Lisa Marie was born into global reverence, but also instability. She entered the world in Memphis at the height of Elvis mania, treated less like a child and more like royalty. Yet her parents' marriage was already fractured. Priscilla Presley had entered Elvis's world as a teenager, and by the time Lisa was born, the relationship had become defined by control, isolation, and imbalance. Priscilla would later describe herself as a living doll, shaped to meet Elvis's expectations in every detail. By the time Lisa was 4, the marriage collapsed, and at 5, the divorce was finalized, officially amicable, but emotionally disorienting. Lisa was then shuttled between California and Memphis, caught between a mother seeking independence and a father retreating deeper into addiction and isolation. Graceland became both refuge and illusion. Lisa later described it as a place without rules, where she and her friends ran wild, destroying golf carts and living without consequence. To outsiders, it sounded magical, but in reality it reflected a childhood without structure or protection. Elvis adored his daughter, but his health was failing, and Lisa noticed the changes before the adults admitted them. She saw him struggle to stand, lose balance, and disappear behind locked doors. Sometimes, when no one else was there, she tried to hold him upright herself, a burden no child should carry. In August, when Lisa was 9, that fragile world shattered. She was at Graceland the night Elvis died. The last time she saw him was in the early hours of the morning, when he kissed her goodnight. Hours later, she found him unconscious in the bathroom. That image never left her. His body remained in the house for days, and Lisa lingered nearby, unable to process what had happened. From that moment on, death became a constant presence in her life. She rarely spoke about that night, believing revisiting it would exploit her father's death, but everything that followed, her addictions, relationships, and need to protect broken men, seemed to begin there. After Elvis's death, Lisa did not find safety. Living mostly in California with her mother, she entered a household that appeared stable on the surface but concealed deeper instability. Priscilla began a relationship with Michael Edwards, a man who lived with them. Years later, Lisa revealed that Edwards behaved inappropriately toward her while intoxicated when she was still a minor. At the time, she said nothing. Silence had already become her survival instinct. When the relationship ended, Edwards published a book admitting an attraction to her, confirming what she had carried alone. For Lisa, the damage was irreversible, and home ceased to be a place of refuge. By her early teens, she entered what she later called a self-destruct mode. Drugs became both rebellion and escape. She moved through private and boarding schools without ever finding stability, describing herself as lonely and disconnected. At 17, after dangerous episodes of drug use, Priscilla intervened and sent her to the Scientology Celebrity Center for rehabilitation. It was there she met musician Danny Keough, someone who did not chase her name or legacy. To Lisa, he represented normalcy and emotional safety, something she had never truly known. Lisa married Danny Keough, believing she had found a life outside of spectacle. They built a family and had 2 children, including Riley Keough and Benjamin. For a time, she appeared stable, but stability felt unfamiliar and eventually fragile. Over time, she convinced herself that Danny resented her position, though those close to them said otherwise. When the marriage ended, regret followed quickly. Within days of the divorce, Lisa married Michael Jackson. To outsiders, the decision was shocking, but to Lisa it made emotional sense. Michael was famous, isolated, and deeply wounded, qualities she recognized in herself. Their relationship quickly became a global spectacle, especially after their staged kiss at the MTV Awards. Lisa defended him fiercely against allegations, believing in his vulnerability and wanting to protect him. But behind closed doors, the relationship deteriorated. Michael's reliance on painkillers and Lisa's instinct to rescue created an unsustainable dynamic. After 2 years, the marriage ended. She would later call leaving Danny Keough for Michael Jackson the biggest mistake of her life. Following that, Lisa entered a period of emotional exhaustion and impulsive decisions. Her brief marriage to Nicolas lasted just over 3 months, fueled more by intensity than stability. Later, she married musician Michael Lockwood, a relationship that lasted a decade and produced twin daughters. For a time, it seemed she had finally found balance. But beneath the surface, issues grew. Accusations of financial manipulation and personal conflict led to a painful divorce and custody battle, during which her children were temporarily placed with Priscilla. Though investigations closed without charges, the emotional toll was severe. By then, loss had become a constant in Lisa's life. Nothing, however, prepared her for the death of her son Benjamin at 27 from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The loss shattered her completely. She described the grief as physical and unrelenting, rejecting the idea of closure and insisting that loss is something you carry forever. Benjamin had struggled under the weight of his family name, a pressure Lisa understood deeply. After his death, her own struggles with addiction resurfaced, tied to years of opioid use that began with medical prescriptions. She sought treatment multiple times, but the scars remained. As her emotional world collapsed, so did her financial stability. When Lisa inherited Elvis's estate at 25, it was worth around $100 million, but years of mismanagement and legal disputes reduced it drastically. At one point, she reportedly had only $14,000 in cash while carrying millions in debt. She sued her former manager for mismanagement, while he blamed her spending. The legal battles only added to her stress. Despite everything, she remained fiercely protective of her father's legacy, rejecting portrayals she felt diminished him. In her final years, Lisa worked on a memoir with Riley, not as a scandal but as a confession. She spoke openly about addiction, grief, regret, and survival, not as a victory story, but as a truth. In January, she suffered cardiac arrest at her home and did not recover. She was 54. Her funeral was held at Graceland, beside her father and her son, 3 generations bound by legacy and loss. Lisa Marie Presley lived a life the world believed it understood, but rarely truly did.